Hey Krishna, welcome to Krishna Book Part 3, class number 4. Hope everybody's doing well. We're going to start on chapter 63. Krishna's grandson Aniruddha has just been captured, and there's going to be confrontation. But before we do, we'll have some kirtan. For one second.
Okay, Haribol sweet souls, welcome to Shastra class. Sorry for our tardiness. So let's take a deep breath in together, in and out, clearing, arriving. Inhale, sip it in through your nose, fill up. Twice more like that. Inhale, sip it in. Letting it go. One more, sip it in, sip it in, sip it in, sip it in. Exhale, clear it all. Right, releasing any lingering energy of distraction from your day as we gather here together tonight and putting ourselves in front of this transcendental sound vibration of all the things we could be doing tonight, all the reasons you may or may not have been able to make it here tonight. You chose to be here. What a gift. So we call out to our teachers, the disciplic succession, the lineage of teachers that have passed on these gifts of this mantra, the Maha Mantra, as well as Shastra, the Vedas. We open with a mood of gratitude and doing our best to be receptive to receive the mercy. Let's take a deep breath in, fill up. Om Jnana Samardasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavane Acharya Deshatarine Manchakalpatrubhyascha Kripasintu Devacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Brahman Bhakti Sangha and beyond. Ki. Shastra Study Group. Ki. Hari Hari Bol.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shrakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarupyascha Kripa Santubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Great to be back in Vermont. How is everyone? Good. So we had some reflections in chat. Tracy, you were saying you had some reflections written down. You got to find them. Anyone want to get the ball rolling? Start us off with some reflections on the last week, chapters 60, 61, and 62. So the chapters were talks between Krishna and Rukmini, the genealogy of the family of Krishna, which included Balaram's fight at, I think, Pradyumna's wedding, and his killing of Rukmini. And then Aniruddha, Krishna's grandson, being dreamed of, being the dream husband or boyfriend of this princess, Usha, and how her friends summoned him. Any reflections? Go ahead. Aaron, you're unmuted. You want to say something? Maybe not. Tracy, did you find your notes?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's three kind of main pieces to this, and ultimately, I mean, there's love, surrender, and ultimately that the purpose of our life is to remember God and be be in union with him. And even though we keep getting these obstacles and the material world kind of puts all the things in front of us to like make us feel far away, ultimately our soul is his soul and vice versa. Like we're part and parcel of him. And all of the examples that we're given is just different scenarios, but ultimately we are, he owns us. I mean, we are him and he is us, and he's here for us regardless. We just have to remember.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it is about these chapters that helped you remember that?
I think it was really Rukmini, all of the things that I just remember, Krishna being like, really want me. You could have any prince, you could, and just that little back and forth. And she's like, no, you're the ultimate, you're it. Like there's nothing that compares to you. And just her surrender and her desire for him to come for her, and then for him to kind of present the way that he did towards her, and her just being like, no, absolutely, like you're it. I need you.
Yeah.
And that's surrender. That is like pure love and surrender.
Yeah. And she really turns everything he said back on him.
Totally.
Yeah. She's like, actually, what you're saying is true, but from this point of view. you know? You said that you don't have any wealth to give to anybody, and that's true because actually everything is already you. Nothing's outside of you. So she's very clever
She is.
to glorify him and to demonstrate his actual supremacy and her position as a devotee. Like, you say that I shouldn't be in service to you, but actually everything you're saying already proves that I should. And I'm not choosing anything else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, once again, he's conquered by her, by his devotee. Any other reflections before we move into chapter 63? Okay.
Well, I
Yeah, go
just
ahead.
thought it was interesting that there was a part in there where he said that he didn't want, if any devotee got to be too proud, that he would find a way to. And I almost felt like that was what he was trying to do with Rukmini, because he was with her all the time, and she was like, he's all mine, he's with me all the time, and
Mm,
he started like egging her on, like, so this and that, and it kind of backfired on him in a way, but I think it did make her realize not to be so proud, that there wasn't maybe a chance that she could lose him, or that she could be without him, and it really devastated her. Um, and it made me think maybe that, even though even the best devotee still has to be humble with their devotion to Krishna. So yeah, I really was stuck on that chapter all week. Reading it, I thought, well, is he being mean? Is he being, because it seems like I always believe that there are no real jokes. If somebody's joking, underneath they really kind of mean what they're saying. So that I was trying to read into that, and then and I thought maybe because he felt like she was too proud that he went that route. So I don't know. It was interesting, as always.
yeah. It's a very interesting thing because in the Leela, in the pastimes, these are all liberated souls. They don't, you know, make mistakes like we do. They don't have problems like we do. But from the perspective of us, there are these lessons. And Prabhupada even says in the chapter, as soon as a devotee becomes so proud, by some tactic, Krishna cuts down that pride. In this case also, Krishna said many things that were hard for Rukmini to hear. She could only conclude that although she was proud of her position, Krishna could be separated from her at any moment. The liberated souls are offering lessons to us as conditioned souls. She doesn't have to actually worry about pride, but I do. And a practicing devotee does. It came up with the gopis too, with how they were proud apparently of Krishna, and so he left. And so these things play out. They experience that in the Leela, but it's not actually like they're. So in other words, we shouldn't sit around thinking like, oh, I'm as good as the gopis. They're proud sometimes, I'm proud sometimes. But it's more like they're specifically highlighting it for us. But yeah, there's definitely that thing of, Krishna is so expert to catch you when because what does pride lead to, right? If you're proud, you're complacent. You take it for granted. You become lazy. What else? Proud. Problems comes from pride. Maybe arrogance. Sounds like a delicious relationship, right? Lots of fun. It's like these things are the death of love. They're the death of like vibrancy and presence. It's just like Krishna, he's so expert at nipping in the bud. So he created a situation where it's like, oh my God, yeah, I need Krishna. Oh, wow, like I really want him. What is this like pride thing? And you just leave that unnatural situation of entitlement, basically, And one of our very senior devotees in the movement, Yamuna Devi Dasi, one of Srila Prabhupada's first disciples, who wrote the big Bible of cooking recipes. She's accomplished author, accomplished kirtaniya, accomplished worshiper of deities, great devotee. She passed away in 2011 or 12. She said that complacency is the number one enemy in our movement. It's the number one thing to watch out for in the lives of devotees because it absolutely kills your devotion. She said, if you have a position, you're a guru, you're a teacher, or anything, you have to really watch out for these things, especially because did I say complacency? I meant entitlement. She said entitlement is the biggest thing to worry about. They're related. I would argue complacency leads to entitlement. This mood of entitlement she strongly criticized as being the wellspring, the root of all other problems in your spiritual life. You know, if you're entitled, then you don't take your practice seriously. If you're entitled, you don't learn from other people. If you're entitled, you ignore your teachers. If you're entitled, you know, you cut corners. If you're entitled, you make offenses. If you're entitled, you get lost in pride and anger. It's like, you know, incredibly slippery slope. So Krishna's actually just our well-wisher. He doesn't want that for us. So that's definitely one of the layers here. Thank you. Allison.
I was just going to add, because you mentioned Yamuna Devi, and I happen to be on book 2 of her autobiography, Unalloyed Devotion. And it's just, that's why I love this chapter so much, because I felt like I'm kind of seeing it come to life in a little bit more modern day. That's a little bit more related to of a woman in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and everything that she did from the moment she left Vrindavan in the 70s was just completely with Krishna, Prabhupada in the center, and the devotion that she exhibits just reminds me so much of this chapter. So just reading them both side by side was really awesome.
Yeah, she's a great example of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada said in the earlier mid-70s, while he was still on the planet, about her, that she is at the level of bhava, ecstatic love. It's the level right before prema. She'd been practicing for like 6 years at that point, you know, and she practiced for another 35 before she left the planet, very, very humbly. So one of the great success stories of our movement is Yamuna Devi Dasi. So let's all watch out for entitlement. On that note, we're going to gratefully dive into this Krishna book, chapter 63. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshama. Krishna, 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 Mahima. Ram Raghava, Ram Raghava, Ram Raghava, Rakshama. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Jai Krishna book, chapter 63. Lord Krishna fights with Banasura. When the 4 months of the rainy season had passed and Aniruddha had still not returned home, the Yadu family became much perturbed. They could not understand how he was missing. Fortunately, one day, the great sage Narada came and informed the family about Aniruddha's disappearance from the palace, prodding, pushing, making the Leela continue. He explained how Aniruddha had been carried to the city of Shonatapur, the capital of Banasura's empire. Banasura had arrested him with the Naga Pasha, even though Aniruddha had defeated his soldiers. Then the members of the Yadu dynasty, all of whom had great affection for Krishna, prepared to attack the city of Shonatapura. Remember, Aniruddha is his grandson. Practically all the leaders of the family, including Pradyumna, Satyaki, Gada, Samba, Sarana, Nanda, Upananda, and Bhadra, combined together and gathered 12 Akshauhini military divisions into phalanxes. They all went to Shonatapur and surrounded it with soldiers, elephants, horses, and chariots. Banasura heard that the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty were attacking the whole city, tearing down various walls, gates, and nearby gardens. Becoming very angry, he immediately ordered his soldiers, who were of equal caliber, to go and face them. Lord Shiva was so kind to Banasura that he personally came as the commander-in-chief of the military force, assisted by his heroic sons, Kartikeya and Ganapati. Nandishvara, Lord Shiva, seated on his favorite bull, led the fighting against Lord Krishna and Balaram. Remember, Banasura had a blessing from Shiva because he was a very dear devotee of Lord Shiva. And he had specifically approached him to ask for the opportunity to fight somebody worthy of fighting because he had 100 powerful arms and he couldn't find anybody. We can simply imagine how fierce the fighting was. Lord Shiva with his valiant sons on one side, and Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his elder brother, Sri Balaramji, on the other. The fighting was so fierce that those who saw the battle were struck with wonder, and the hairs on their bodies stood up. Lord Shiva was engaged in fighting directly with Lord Krishna, Pradyumna was engaged with Kartikeya, and Lord Balaram was engaged with Banasura's commander-in-chief, Kumbhanda, who was assisted by Kupakarna. Samba, the son of Krishna, fought the son of Banasura, and Banasura fought Satyaki, commander-in-chief of the Yadu dynasty. News of the fighting spread all over the universe. Demigods like Lord Brahma from higher planetary systems, along with great sages and saintly persons, Siddhas, Chananas, and Gandharvas, all being very curious to see the fight between Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna, and their assistants hovered over the battlefield in their airplanes. Lord Shiva is called Bhutanatha because he is assisted by various types of powerful ghosts and denizens of the inferno, Bhutas, Pretas, Pramatas, Guhyakas, Dakinis, Pishachas, Kushmandas, Vetalas, Vinayakas, and Brahma Rakshasas. Of all kinds of ghosts, the Brahma Rakshasas are the most powerful. They are Brahmanas who after death have entered the ghostly species of life, various ghouls, vampires, hobgoblins. Because Lord Shiva manifests control and protection of the mode of ignorance, those who are particularly in the mode of ignorance, including unembodied living beings and these kind of lower living beings, are under his control. So they're all his followers. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, simply drove away all these ghosts from the battlefield with the arrows from his celebrated bow, Sharanga Dhanur. Lord Shiva then began to release all his selected weapons against the Personality of Godhead. Lord Sri Krishna, without any difficulty, counteracted all these weapons with counterweapons. He counteracted the Brahmastra, similar to the atomic bomb, with another Brahmastra, and an air weapon with a mountain weapon. When Lord Shiva released a particular weapon bringing about a violent hurricane on the battlefield, Lord Krishna presented just the opposing element, a mountain weapon, which checked the hurricane on the spot. Similarly, when Lord Shiva released his weapon of devastating fire, Krishna counteracted it with torrents of rain. The Brahmastra is mentioned in other places. It's a mantra released weapon. It's using subtle energy to actually extract atomic levels of explosive power.
There was another. When was that used before? That was used.
Yeah, to try and kill Parikshit.
When he was
in the womb.
Okay.
Ashwatthama.
Yeah.
The murderer of the sons of Arjuna, who survived the battlefield of Kurukshetra, tried to kill Parikshit, the male heir of the Pandus, because of his unreasonable hatred. And so he released the Brahmastra weapon, although it was very adharmic, and it was like a betrayal of his own guru to do so. And Parikshit in the womb actually got to see Krishna at that point, because Krishna replied to Parikshit's mother Uttara, praying for protection. Early Canto 1, Chapter 7, Bhagavatam. And he comes and protects Parikshit in the womb. And he sends Arjuna after Ashwatthama to counteract the weapon. And then also what we're seeing here is all the elemental forces are being wielded this is like Gandalf or something, super level of wizardry. Krishna and Lord Shiva are actually manifesting complete mastery over the elemental forces in their battle here. So it would have been quite the scene. At last, when Lord Shiva released his personal weapon, the Pashupata Astra, Krishna immediately counteracted it with the Narayana Astra. Lord Shiva became exasperated in fighting with Lord Krishna. Krishna then took the opportunity to release his yawning weapon. When this weapon is released, the opposing party becomes tired, stops fighting, and begins to yawn. Yeah, hit them where they live.
Yeah.
Hit him in the yawning. Consequently, Lord Shiva became so fatigued, he refused to fight anymore and began yawning. Krishna was now able to turn his attention from the attack of Lord Shiva to the efforts of Banasura, and he began to kill Banasura's personal soldiers with swords and clubs. Meanwhile, Lord Krishna's son Pradyumna was fiercely fighting with Kartikeya, the commander-in-chief of the demigods. Kartikeya was wounded and his body was bleeding profusely. He left the battlefield and without fighting anymore rode away on the back of his peacock carrier. Similarly, Lord Balaram smashed Banasura's commander-in-chief Kumbhanda with the strokes of his club. Kumbhakarna was wounded in the same way, and both he and Kumbhanda fell on the battlefield, Kumbhanda being fatally wounded. Without guidance, all the Banasura's soldiers scattered here and there. When Banasura saw that his soldiers and commanders had been defeated, his anger only increased. He thought it wise to stop fighting with Satyaki, Krishna's commander-in-chief, and instead directly attacked Krishna, Lord Krishna. Now, having the opportunity to use his 1,000 arms, I said 100, it's 1,000, he rushed toward Krishna, simultaneously working 500 bows and 2,000 arrows. Wow, 4 per bow. It's pretty good. Such a foolish person could never measure Krishna's strength. Immediately, without difficulty, Krishna cut each of Banasura's bows into 2 pieces, and to check him from going further, he made the horses of his chariot lie on the ground. So the chariot broke to pieces. He made them stumble. After doing this, Krishna blew his conch shell Panchajanya. There was a demigoddess named Kotara who was worshipped by Banasura, and their relationship was as mother and son. Mother Kotara was upset that Banasura's life was in danger, so she appeared on the scene. With naked body and scattered hair, she stood before Lord Krishna. Sri Krishna did not like the sight of this naked woman, and to avoid seeing her, he turned his face. Banasura, getting this chance to escape Krishna's attack, left the battlefield. All the strings of his bows had been broken, there was no chariot or driver, so he had no alternative but to return to his city. He lost everything in the battle. Being greatly harassed by the arrows of Krishna, all the associates of Lord Shiva left the battlefield. Lord Shiva then took to his last resort. He released his greatest death weapon, the Shiva Jwara, which destroys by excessive heat. It is said that at the end of creation, the sun becomes 12 times more scorching than usual. This 12 times hotter temperature is called Shiva Jvara. Jvara means like fever. When the Shiva Jvara personified was released, he had 3 heads and 3 legs. And as he came before Krishna, it appeared that he was burning everything to ashes. He was so powerful, he made blazing fire appear in all directions, and Krishna observed he was specifically coming toward him. As there is a Shiva Jwara weapon, there is also a Narayana Jwara weapon, which is represented by excessive cold. When there is excessive heat, one can somehow or other tolerate it. But when there is excessive cold, everything collapses. This is actually experienced by a person at the time of death. At the time of death, the temperature of the body first of all increases to 107 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the whole body collapses and immediately becomes as cold as ice. To counteract the scorching heat of the Shiva Jwara, there is no other weapon but the Narayana Jwara. Therefore, when Lord Krishna saw that the Shiva Jwara had been released by Lord Shiva, he had no recourse other than to release the Narayana Jwara. Lord Sri Krishna is the original Narayana and the controller of the Narayana Jwara weapon. When it was released, there was a great fight between the two Jvaras. When excessive heat is counteracted by extreme cold, it is natural for the hot temperature to gradually reduce, and this is what occurred. Gradually, the Shiva Jwara's temperature diminished, and the Shiva Jwara began to cry for help from Lord Shiva, but Lord Shiva was unable to help him in the presence of the Narayana Jwara. Unable to get any help from Lord Shiva, the Shiva Jwara could understand he had no means of escape outside of surrendering unto Narayana, Lord Krishna himself. Lord Shiva, the greatest of the demigods, could not help him, what to speak of the lesser demigods. Therefore, the Shiva Jwara ultimately surrendered to Krishna, bowing unto him and offering a prayer so the Lord might be pleased and give him protection. This incident of the fight between the ultimate weapons of Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna proves that if Krishna gives someone protection, no one can kill him. And if Krishna does not give one protection, no one can save him. Lord Shiva is called Mahadeva, the greatest of all demigods, although sometimes Lord Brahma is considered the greatest of all demigods because he can create. However, Lord Shiva can annihilate the creations of Brahma. Still, both Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva act in only one capacity. Lord Brahma creates, Lord Shiva annihilates, but neither of them can maintain. Lord Vishnu, however, not only maintains but creates and annihilates also. Factually, the creation is not affected by Brahma, but because Brahma himself is created by Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva is created or born of Brahma. The Shiva Jwara thus understood that without Krishna or Narayana, no one could help him. Therefore, he rightly took shelter of Lord Krishna, and with folded hands began to pray as follows. My dear Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you have unlimited potencies. No one can surpass your potencies, and you are the Lord of everyone. Generally, people consider Lord Shiva the most powerful personality in the material world, but Lord Shiva is not all-powerful. You are all-powerful. You are the original consciousness or knowledge. Without knowledge or consciousness, nothing can be powerful. A material thing may be very powerful, but without the touch of consciousness, it cannot act. A material machine may be gigantic and wonderful, but without the touch of someone conscious and in knowledge, the material machine is useless for all purposes. My Lord, you are complete knowledge, and there is not a pinch of material contamination in your personality. Lord Shiva may be a powerful demigod because of his specific power to annihilate the whole creation, and Lord Brahma may be very powerful because he can create the entire universe. But neither Brahma nor Lord Shiva is the original cause of this cosmic manifestation. You are the absolute truth. The Supreme Brahman, you are the original cause. The original cause of the cosmic manifestation is not the impersonal Brahman effulgence. The impersonal Brahman effulgence rests on your personality. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, the cause of the impersonal Brahman is Lord Krishna. This Brahman effulgence is likened to the sunshine which emanates from the sun globe. Therefore, impersonal Brahman is not the ultimate cause. The ultimate cause is the supreme eternal form of Lord Krishna. All material actions and reactions take place in the impersonal Brahman, but in the personal Brahman, the eternal form of Krishna, there is no action and reaction. The Shiva Jwara continued. Therefore, my Lord, your body is completely peaceful, completely blissful, and devoid of material contamination. In the material body, there are actions and reactions of the three modes of material nature. The time factor is the most important element, above all others, because the material manifestation is affected by the agitation of time. Thus, natural phenomena come into existence, and as soon as phenomena appear, fruitive activities are visible. As a result of these fruitive activities, a living entity takes his form. He acquires a particular nature packed up in a subtle body and gross body formed by the life air, the ego, the 10 sense organs, the mind, and the 5 gross elements. These then create the type of body which later becomes the root cause of various other bodies, which are acquired one after another by means of the transmigration of the soul. All these phenomenal manifestations are the combined actions of your material energy. You, however, are the cause of this external energy, and thus you remain unaffected by the action and reaction of the different elements. And because you are transcendental to such compulsions of material energy, you are the supreme tranquility. You are the last word in freedom from material contamination. I therefore take shelter at your lotus feet, giving up all other shelter. My dear Lord, your appearance as the son of Vasudeva and your role as a human being is one of the pastimes of your complete freedom. To benefit your devotees and vanquish the non-devotees, you appear in multi-incarnations. All these incarnations descend in fulfillment of your promise in the Bhagavad Gita, that you appear as soon as there is discrepancy in the system of progressive life. When there are disturbances by irregular principles, my dear Lord, you appear by your own internal potency. Your main business is to protect and maintain the demigods and spiritually inclined persons, and to maintain the standard of material law and order. Considering your mission of maintaining such law and order, your violence toward the miscreants and demons is quite befitting. This is not the first time you've incarnated. You have done so many, many times before. My dear Lord, I beg to submit that I have been very greatly chastised by the release of your Narayana Jvara, which is certainly very cooling, but at the same time very dangerous and unbearable for all of us. My dear Lord, as long as one is forgetful of Krishna consciousness, driven by the spell of material desires, and ignorant of the ultimate shelter at your lotus feet, one who has accepted this material body becomes disturbed by the three miserable conditions of material nature. Because one does not surrender unto you, he continues to suffer perpetually. Hearing this, Lord Krishna replied, O three-headed one, I am pleased with your statement. Be assured there will be no more suffering for you from the Narayana Jvara. Not only are you now free from fear of the Narayana Jvara, but anyone in the future who simply recollects this fight between you and the Narayana Jvara will also be freed from all kinds of fear. After hearing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Shiva Jvara offered respectful obeisances under his lotus feet and left. In the meantime, Banasura somehow or other recovered from his setbacks and with rejuvenated energy returned to fight. This time he appeared before Lord Krishna, who was seated on his chariot with different kinds of weapons in his 1,000 hands. Very much agitated, Banasura splashed his different weapons upon the body of Lord Krishna like torrents of rain. When Lord Krishna saw the weapons of Banasura coming at him like water coming out of a strainer, he took a sharp-edged Sudarshana disc and began to cut off the demon's 1,000 arms, one after another, as a gardener trims the twigs of a tree with sharp cutters. When Lord Shiva saw that his devotee Banasura could not be saved even in his presence, he came to his senses, and personally came before Lord Krishna, began to pacify him by offering the following prayers. Lord Shiva said, My dear Lord, you are the worshipable object of the Vedic hymns. One who does not know you considers the impersonal Brahma Jyotir to be the ultimate supreme absolute truth, without knowledge that you exist behind your spiritual effulgence in your eternal abode. You are therefore called Parabrahman. Indeed, the words Param Brahman have been used in the Bhagavad Gita to identify you. Saintly persons who have completely cleansed their hearts of all material contamination can realize your transcendental form, although you're all-pervading like the sky, unaffected by any material thing. Only devotees can realize you, and no one else. In the impersonalist conception of your supreme existence, the sky is just like your navel, fire is your mouth, and water is your semen. The heavenly planets are your head, all the directions are your ears, the earth, Urvi, is your lotus feet, the moon is your mind, the sun is your eye. As far as I'm concerned, I act as your ego. The ocean is your abdomen, and the king of heaven, Indra, is your arm. Trees and plants are the hairs on your body, the clouds are the hairs on your head, and Lord Brahma is your intelligence. All the great progenitors known as Prajapatis are your symbolic representatives. And religion is your heart. The impersonal feature of your supreme body is conceived of in this way, but you are ultimately the supreme person. The impersonal feature of your supreme body is only a small expansion of your energy. You are likened to the original fire, and your expansions are its light and heat.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
You've mentioned the Bhagavad Gita a couple times here.
Mhm.
Has the Bhagavad Gita, has that taken place then? The battles are like, I don't
That's-
think the battle,
Prabhupada is inserting.
okay, got it.
He's inserting sometimes within the quote and sometimes outside the quote. Yeah, even in the quote where he's quoting Lord Shiva doesn't actually use the words, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, but Prabhupada is
Part of the narrative.
putting the weaving the tapestry for us together, because it's true.
Yeah.
And it's helping us to connect the dots. Lord Shiva continued, "My dear Lord, since you're manifested universally, the different parts of the universe are the different parts of your body. And by your inconceivable potency, you can simultaneously be both localized and universal." Here's another quote. In the Brahma Samhita, we also find it stated that although you always remain in your abode, Goloka Vrindavan, you are present everywhere. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, you appear in order to protect the devotees, and thus your appearance indicates good fortune for all the universe. Just as a note, I haven't read this section in the Bhagavatam in a little bit, but I'm 99% sure the actual point he's saying, like when he says, you appear to protect the devotees for the good fortune of all the universe. That's there in the quote that Lord Shiva is saying. But what Prabhupada's doing is he's paraphrasing Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glani Bhavati Bharata 4:8 Bhagavad Gita. I appear to protect the devotees, and literally the same thing. So Prabhupada's acting like a scientist, putting footnotes. See Bhagavad Gita 4:8. It's really useful for us so we can connect the dots. But he's never actually inserting anything. If he has to insert anything, it's after he finishes the quote, and then he'll talk as himself. All the demigods are directing different affairs of the universe, by your grace only. Thus, the 7 upper planetary systems are maintained by your grace. At the end of this creation, all manifestations of your energy, whether in the shape of demigods, human beings, or lower animals, enter into you, and all immediate and remote causes of the cosmic manifestation rest in you, without distinctive features of existence. Ultimately, there is no possibility of distinction between you and any other thing on an equal level with you or subordinate to you. You are simultaneously the cause of this cosmic manifestation and its ingredients as well. You are the supreme whole, one without a second. In the phenomenal manifestation, there are 3 stages: the stage of consciousness, the stage of semi-consciousness in dreaming, and the stage of unconsciousness. But your lordship is transcendental to all these different material stages of existence. You exist therefore in a 4th dimension, and your appearance and disappearance do not depend on anything beyond yourself. You're the supreme cause of everything, but of you there is no cause. You yourself cause your own appearance and disappearance. Despite your transcendental position, my lord, in order to show your 6 opulences and advertise your transcendental qualities, you have appeared in your different incarnations, fish, tortoise, boar, Nrsimha, Keshava, and others, by your personal manifestation. And you have appeared as different living entities, by your separated manifestations. By your internal potency, you appear as the different incarnations of Vishnu, and by your external potency, you appear as the phenomenal world. On a cloudy day, to the common man's eyes, the sun appears to be covered. But the fact is that, because the sunshine created the cloud, the sun can never actually be covered, even though the whole sky may be cloudy. Similarly, less intelligent persons claim that there is no God, but when the manifestation of different living entities and their activities is visible, enlightened persons see you present in every atom through the medium of your external and marginal energies. Your unlimitedly potent activities are experienced by the most enlightened devotees, but those who are bewildered by the spell of your external energy identify themselves with this material world and become attached to society, friendship, and love. Thus they embrace the 3-fold miseries of material existence and are subjected to the dualities of pain and pleasure, sometimes drowning in the ocean of attachment and sometimes being taken out of it. My dear Lord, only by your mercy and grace can the living entity get the human form of life, which is a chance to get out of the miserable conditions of material existence. However, a person who possesses a human body but who cannot bring his senses under control is carried away by the waves of sensual enjoyment. As such, they cannot take shelter of your lotus feet and thus engage in your devotional service. The life of such a person is very unfortunate, and anyone living such a life of darkness is certainly cheating themselves and also cheating others. Therefore, human society without Krishna consciousness is a society of cheaters and the cheated. My Lord, you're actually the dearmost supersoul of all living entities and the supreme controller of everything. The human being whose always illusion is afraid of ultimate death. A man who simply attached to sensual enjoyment voluntarily accepts the miserable material existence and thus wanders after the will-o'-the-wisp of sense pleasure. He is certainly the most foolish man, for he drinks poison and puts aside the nectar. My dear Lord, all the demigods, including myself and Lord Brahma, as well as great saintly persons and sages who have cleansed their heart of material attachment, have, by your grace, wholeheartedly taken shelter of your lotus feet. We have all taken shelter of you because we have accepted you as the Supreme Lord and the dearmost life and soul of all of us. You are the original cause of this cosmic manifestation. You are its supreme maintainer. You are the cause of its dissolution also. You are equal to everyone, the most peaceful, supreme friend of every living entity. You are the supreme, worshipable object for every one of us. My dear Lord, let us always be engaged in your transcendental loving service, so that we may get free from this material entanglement. Finally, my Lord, I may inform you that this Banasud is very dear to me. He has rendered valuable service unto me, therefore I want to see him always happy. Being pleased with him, I have assured him safety. I pray to you, my Lord, that as you were pleased with his forefathers, King Prahlad and Bali Maharaj, you will also be pleased with him. After hearing Lord Shiva's prayer, Lord Krishna replied, My dear Lord Shiva, I accept your statements and I also accept your desire for Banasura. I know that this Banasura is a son of Bali Maharaj, and as such I cannot kill him, for that is my promise. I gave a benediction to King Prahlad that the demons who would appear in his family would never be killed by me. When Prahlad was saved, he asked the Lord, Nrsingadev, to deliver his father, even though he had been such a monster. He said, actually, your entire family, 7 generations forward and backward, is completely liberated just because you happen to be in it. Guess how dear you are to me. It turns out Banasura is his grandson, or so. Yeah, or great-grandson. Therefore, without killing this Banasura, I've simply cut off his arms to deprive him of his false prestige. There it is again. False prestige cut down. The large number of soldiers he was maintaining became a burden on this earth, and I've killed them all to minimize the burden. Now he has 4 remaining arms, and he will remain immortal, unaffected by material pains and pleasures. I know he is one of the chief devotees of your lordship, so you can now rest assured that henceforward he need have no fear of anything. When Banasura is blessed by Lord Krishna in this way, he came before the Lord and bowed down before him, touching his head to the earth. Remember, this whole thing was precipitated because Banasura captured Aniruddha, finding him in his daughter's quarters and her pregnant. Banasura immediately arranged to have his daughter Usha seated with Aniruddha on a nice chariot, and he presented them before Lord Krishna. After this, Lord Krishna took charge of Aniruddha and Usha, who had become very opulent materially because of the blessings of Lord Shiva. Thus, keeping forward a division of 1 akshauhini of soldiers, Krishna proceeded toward Dwarka. In the meantime, all the people of Dwarka, having received the news that Lord Krishna was returning with Aniruddha and Usha in great opulence, decorated every corner of the city with flags, festoons, and garlands. Everywhere was a fragrance of sandalwood. All the citizens joined with their friends and relatives to welcome Lord Krishna with great pomp and jubilation, and a tumultuous vibration of conch shells, drums, and bugles received the Lord. In this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, entered his capital, Dwarka. Shukadeva Goswami assured King Parikshit that the narration of the fight between Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna is not at all inauspicious like ordinary fights. On the contrary, if one remembers in the morning the narration of this fight between Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva, and takes pleasure in the victory of Lord Krishna, he will never experience defeat anywhere in his struggle of life. This episode of Banasura's fighting with Krishna and later being saved by the grace of Lord Shiva is confirmation of the statement in the Bhagavad Gita that the worshippers of demigods cannot achieve any benediction without its being sanctioned by the Supreme Lord Krishna. Here in this narration we find that, although Banasura was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, when he faced death by Krishna, Lord Shiva was not able to save him, but Lord Shiva appealed to Krishna to save his devotee, and this was sanctioned by the Lord. This is the position of Lord Krishna. The exact words used in this connection in the Bhagavad Gita are Mayaiva Vihitan Hitan. That's like chapter 7, verse 24. This means that 22 or 23 actually, 23. This means that without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, no demigod can award any benediction to his worshipper. Krishna book ki jai. Wow. All right, comments, questions, reflections.
I was in a class last week and we talked a little bit about like the prayer formula. And so I love like seeing that repeated, and even by Lord Shiva here, where it's like, first you glorify the Lord, then you make your report with humility of your life, and then you give gratitude for what you have, and then you submit your prayer. And so I love seeing like these very elaborate prayers, just like glorifying Krishna. And so it wasn't like, you can't just go to Krishna and be like, Krishna, I need this. There's like, Krishna, you're amazing and you're wonderful and you're all powerful, and I'm a humble nothing in a not, and then I'm so grateful for what you've given me, but I'd love you to save my friend, so it's
Yeah.
I love that there's like this kind of formula for us to kind of emulate when we talk to Krishna.
There's an orientation. The devotees never actually like step outside their own humble position. Lord Shiva, all the devotees, I mean, we talked about this way back when Akrura was offering prayers, that they're emblematic. All these prayers, I mean, Akrura did it, Brahma did it in chapter 14. Queen Kunti has done it way back in chapter 1. Prahlad does it. Dhruva does it. Everyone. They always start with the Sambandha. Who am I? Who is God? What is the world? All that basic stuff. What's what? So they're not like, hey, what's up, bro? I need a new pair of shoes. I would love to have a better haircut. Like none of that material consciousness can slip in. It's like, you're God, I'm your servant. You don't owe me anything. I'm always yours. You're beyond time, beyond matter. You're transcendental. And then, this is how they relate. Kunti is like a mother. Arjuna is a friend. The gopis are lovers, etc. Servants, what have you, parents. And then there may be like a specific appeal if necessary. Yeah. Good realization. More reflections? Nancy.
Hey, yeah, I was a couple of things, Monday things, that I was surprised that the weapon was actually a person, the Shiva.
Yeah, it was
that
personified.
was
It had a personal
personified,
form as well as an effect.
and it didn't. But they didn't. The counter weapon didn't seem to be personified.
It's not mentioned.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
it's not
just
mentioned.
interesting. And then I always love that everybody forgets that Lord Krishna is the supreme. Even Shiva does. It's like I'm going to have to fight this battle, and then all of a sudden it's sort of like, well, yeah, okay, let me remember. Let me remember what I'm doing and who I'm fighting. You are beyond me. It's but it happens again and again where there's sort of like a forgetfulness. It's part of the Leela, I think, well, I speculate that it is that I need a good battle. I need a good fight. I need to have a good triumph over not so good, and therefore I need you to forget for a minute so that you'll fight me.
Yeah, Krishna, he enjoys a good fight. And no one's qualified to have a good fight with him except his own devotee. So he actually will play fight like this. Lord Shiva is a great devotee of the Lord. And so, there was a moment there where Prabhupada says Lord Shiva came to his senses.
Yeah.
He's not like an angry atheist trying to fight God. He's a great devotee. This is all Leela. Yeah, it's a very intimate thing.
Kind of jumping off of what Nancy said, it's just so interesting, the whole, cutting down of false prestige repeatedly over and over again. But isn't that the human way? We keep forgetting, we keep putting ourselves in the middle. We're the most important, we're the thing. And oh, right, yeah, we're not the thing. And then we forget 2 days later, oh yeah, we're the thing, we're the best thing ever. And then, oh yeah, right, somebody else is in charge. Like it's just interesting because it's repeating it over and over again in these stories, in these leelas, because it needs to be repeated over and over again into our brains.
It's evergreen. It's an evergreen lesson. It's not one and done. Yeah, there's a lot of the false ego has a lot of momentum. Yeah. And it's always refreshing to come back to our real self. It's always refreshing to be like, oh yeah, that was just a dream. Reality is so much more beautiful. I'm actually just a servant and I don't have to try to be in charge of everything. And so that's why we keep hearing. Yeah. Good call. It's a recurring theme. Okay, ready for 64? The story of King Nriga. Once the family members of Lord Krishna, such as Samba, Pradyumna, Charu, Bhanu, and Gada, all princes of the Yadu dynasty, went for a long picnic in the forest near Dwarka. In the course of their excursion, all of them became thirsty, and they tried to find out where water was available in the forest. When they approached a well, they found no water in it, but on the contrary, within the well was a wonderful living entity. It was a large lizard, and they were astonished to see such a wonderful animal. They could understand the animal was trapped and could not escape by its own effort, so out of compassion, they tried to take a large lizard out of the well. Unfortunately, they could not get the lizard out, although they tried to do so in many ways. When the princes returned home, their story was narrated before Lord Krishna. Krishna is the friend of all living entities. Therefore, after hearing the appeal from his sons, he personally went to the well and easily got the great lizard out simply by extending his left hand. Immediately upon being touched by the hand of Lord Krishna, that great lizard gave up its lizard shape and appeared as a beautiful demigod, an inhabitant of the heavenly planets. Its complexion glittered like molten gold. He was decorated with fine garments, and he wore costly ornaments around his neck. How the demigod had been obliged to accept the body of a lizard was not a secret to Lord Krishna, but still, for others' information, he inquired, "My dear fortunate demigod, I see now that your body is so beautiful and lustrous. Who are you? We can guess you are one of the best demigods in the heavenly planets. All good fortune to you. I think that you are not meant to be in this situation. It must be due to the results of your past activities that you were put into the species of lizard life. Still, I want to hear from you how you were put into this position." Actually, this large lizard was called King Nriga, and when questioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he immediately bowed down before the Lord, touching to the ground the helmet on his head, which was as dazzling as the sunshine. In this way, he first offered his respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord. He then said, "My dear Lord, I am King Nriga, the son of King Ishvaku. If you have ever taken account of all charitably disposed men, I am sure you must have heard my name. My Lord, you are the supreme witness. You are aware of every bit of work done by the living entities, past, present, and future. Nothing can be hidden from your eternal cognizance. Still, you have ordered me to explain my history, and I shall therefore narrate the full story." King Nriga proceeded to narrate the history of his degradation caused by his karma kanda activities. He said that he had been very charitably disposed and had given away so many cows that the total was equal to the number of particles of dust on the earth, stars in the sky, or drops of water in a rainfall. According to the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, a man who is charitably disposed is recommended to give cows to the Brahmanas. From King Nriga's statement, it appears that he followed this principle earnestly. However, as a result of a slight discrepancy, he was forced to take birth as a lizard. Therefore, it is recommended by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita that one who is charitably disposed and desires to derive the benefit of his charity should offer his gifts to please Krishna. To give charity means to perform pious activities by which one may be elevated to the higher planetary systems. But promotion to the heavenly planets is no guarantee that one will never fall down. Rather, the example of King Nriga definitely proves that fruit of activities, even if very pious, cannot give us eternal blissful life. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the result of work, either pious or impious, is sure to bind a man unless the work is discharged as yajna, or sacrifice, on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. King Nriga said that the cows he had given in charity were not ordinary cows. Each one was very young and had given birth to only one calf. They were full of milk, very peaceful and very healthy. All were purchased with money earned legally. Their horns were gold-plated. Their hooves were bedecked with silver plating. They were covered with necklaces and with silken wrappers embroidered with pearls. These valuably decorated cows had not been given to any worthless persons, but had been distributed to first-class Brahmanas, whom he had also decorated with nice garments and gold ornaments. The Brahmins were well qualified, and since none of them were very rich, their family members were always in want for the necessities of life. A real Brahmana never hoards money for a luxurious life, like the Kshatriyas or the Vaishyas, but always keeps himself poverty-stricken, knowing that money diverts the mind to materialistic ways of life. To live in this way is the vow of a qualified Brahmana, and all these Brahmanas were well situated in that exalted vow. They were well learned in Vedic knowledge. They executed the required austerities and penances in their lives, and were liberal, meeting the standard of qualified Brahmins. They were equally friendly to everyone. Above all, they were young and quite fit to act as qualified Brahmins. Besides the cows, they were also given land, gold, houses, horses, and elephants. Those who were not married were given wives, maidservants, grain, silver, utensils, garments, jewels, household furniture, chariots, etc. This charity was nicely performed as a sacrifice according to the Vedic ritual. The king also stated that Not only had he bestowed gifts upon the Brahmins, but he had performed other pious activities, such as digging wells, planting trees on the roadside, and installing ponds on the highways. The king continued, in spite of all this, unfortunately, one of the Brahmin's cows that I had given in charity chanced to enter amongst my other cows. Not knowing this, I again gave it in charity to another Brahmana. As the cow was being taken away by this Brahmana, its former master claimed it as his own, stating, "This cow was formerly given to me. So how is it you are taking it away?" Thus there was arguing and fighting between the two Brahmins, and they came before me and charged that I had taken back a cow I had previously given in charity. To give something to someone and then to take it back is considered a great sin, especially in dealing with a Brahmana. When both Brahmanas charged the king with the same complaint, he was simply puzzled as to how it had happened. Thereafter, with great humility, the king offered each of them 100,000 cows in exchange for the one cow that was causing the fight between them. He prayed to them that he was their servant and that there had been some mistake. Thus, in order to rectify it, he prayed that they would be very kind upon him and accept his offer in exchange for the cow. The king fervently appealed to the Brahmins not to cause his downfall into hell because of this mistake. A Brahmin's property is called Brahmasva, and according to Manu's law, it cannot be acquired even by the government. Both Brahmins, however, insisted that the cow was theirs and could not be taken back under any condition. Neither of them agreed to exchange it for the 100,000 cows. Thus, disagreeing with the king's proposal, the two Brahmins left the place in anger, thinking that their lawful possession had been usurped. After this incident, when the time came for the king to give up his body, he was taken before Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, who asked him whether he wanted first to enjoy the results of his pious activities or suffer the results of his impious activities. Seeing that the king had executed so many pious activities and charities, Yamaraj also hinted that he did not know the limit of the king's future happiness. In other words, there would be practically no end to the king's material happiness. But in spite of this hint, the king, being bewildered, decided first to suffer the results of his impious activities and then to accept the results of his pious activities. Therefore, Yamaraj immediately turned him into a lizard. King Nriga remained in the well as a big lizard for a very long time. He told Lord Krishna, "In spite of being put into that degraded condition of life, I simply thought of you, my dear Lord, and my memory was never vanquished." It appears from these statements that persons who follow the principles of fruitive activities and derive some material benefits are not very intelligent. Being given the choice by the superintendent of death, Yamaraj, King Nriga could have first accepted the results of his pious activities. Instead, he thought it better to first receive the effects of his impious activities and then enjoy the effects of his pious activities without disturbance. On the whole, he had not developed Krishna consciousness. The Krishna conscious person develops love of God, Krishna, not love for pious or impious activities. Therefore, he is not subjected to the results of such action. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, a devotee by the grace of the Lord is not subjected to the reactions of fruitive activities. Somehow or other, as a result of his pious activities, did you have a question?
I'm just like, well, me, I was thinking, I'm not, you know, a pure devotee or enlightened in any way, but you know how it's said that it was unintelligent, or Prabhupada said it was unintelligent to take the effects of the impious activities first. My mind goes, yeah, do that first, and then end in the, you know, someone asks you about the bad news or the good news or the bad news first. Give me the bad news first, and then end on a higher note.
I mean, I can understand it. That's not really the point of the section, so I won't dwell on it. But basically, the idea is that he was trying to like micromanage his existence and create positive karma for himself, to live longer and look good and be healthy and have wealth and all that stuff, all the stuff that everyone wants. And he was really good at it, but he still screwed up. And the whole point of this pastime is that don't try to play the game. Cash your chips, leave the table, and leave the casino. Don't treat life like a casino, like a gambling session. It's not a place to try to win, and a place to try to stick around and be the champion of the material world. Somehow or other, as a result of his pious activities, King Nriga had aspired to see the Lord. He continued, "My dear Lord, I had a great desire that someday I might be able to see you personally. I think this desire to see you, combined with my tendency to perform ritualistic and charitable activities, has enabled me to retain the memory of who I was in my former life, although I became a lizard. Such a person who remembers his past life is called Jati Smara. In modern times also, there are instances of small children recalling many details of their past lives. Yeah, the Ian Stevenson's research, University of Virginia, shows that, and whoever followed up with his research, he's not alive anymore. It's not that uncommon, but they almost always forget before the age of 3 or 5 because the current life's memories have to assert themselves. You can imagine how confusing it would be if you constantly remembered a past life while identifying with this line. You would be practically schizophrenic. So, yeah. My dear Lord, you're the super soul seated in everyone's heart. There are many great mystic yogis who have the eyes to see you through the Vedas and Upanishads. To achieve the elevated position of realizing that they are equal in quality with you, they always meditate on you in their hearts. But although such exalted saintly persons may see you constantly in their hearts, they cannot still see you face to face. Therefore, I am very much surprised that I'm able to see you personally. I know that I was engaged in so many activities, especially as a king. Although I was in the midst of luxury and opulence and was subject to so much of the happiness and misery of material existence, I am so fortunate to see you personally. As far as I know, when one becomes liberated from material existence, he can see you in this way. When King Nriga elected to receive the results of his impious activities, he was given the body of a lizard because of the mistake in his pious activities. Thus, he could not be directly converted to a higher status of life like a great demigod. However, along with his pious activities, he thought of Krishna. So he was quickly released from the body of a lizard and given the body of a demigod. By worshipping the Supreme Lord, those who desire material opulences are given the bodies of powerful demigods. Sometimes these demigods can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, but they're still not yet eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom, the Vaikuntha planets. However, if the demigods continue to be devotees of the Lord, the next chance they get, they will enter into the Vaikuntha planets. So he still had some material desire. He's not a pure devotee. Notice the first thing he said to Krishna was, I'm Nriga. If you've ever heard of any charitable person, you may have heard of me. He's kind of a little proud of being a pious person. He's an incredibly pious person. He's so charitable that he's famous for it, right? In the history of he's all-time charitable person. But why? Because he's attached to being good, because he knows that that's good for him. So he's still kind of into staying in the world and enjoying here, right? But because he's also attached to Krishna, the mistake in his karmic calculator that results in him becoming a lizard, the whole thing is fixed, and he basically just gets the best karma he can, and eventually he'll have a chance to serve Krishna. So if you want, even if you have material attachments, better to serve Krishna. You can have your material desires fulfilled and set yourself up to go back to Godhead when you're nice and tired of all the material games here in the world.
This is gonna sound like a silly question. So he's a lizard, but with the intellect of a human.
The memory, at least, of a human, yeah.
Memory of a human.
Kind of like
Krishna
trees.
speaks lizard.
Well, at this point, he's been given a body so he can speak like a human body. Because when Krishna picked him up,
Yeah.
his body was changed into a demigod body right away. And then he starts talking. And then Krishna said, you were a lizard, what's the deal? And then he tells this whole story.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Krishna's touch precipitates it. Before that, all his sons could just see a lizard who's trapped in a well. And they very innocently thought, well, this is not good. Let's go save him. But we can't reach him, so Krishna can do it. So then Krishna finds out he's got a backstory. And now we're hearing all this from the now a demigod.
Thank you.
Having attained the body of a demigod, King Nriga, continuing to remember everything, said, my dear Lord, you're the Supreme Lord and are worshipped by all the demigods. You're not one of the ordinary living entities. You're the Supreme Person, Purushottama. You're the source of all happiness for all living entities. Therefore, you are known as Govinda. What's he known as? Govinda. You're the Lord of those living entities who have accepted material bodies and those who have not yet accepted material bodies. Amongst the living entities who have not accepted material bodies are those who hover in the material world as evil spirits or live in the ghostly atmosphere. However, those who live in the spiritual kingdom, the Vaikuntha lokas, have bodies not made of material elements. You, my Lord, are infallible. You're the supreme, the purest of all living entities. You live in everyone's heart. You are the shelter of all living entities, Narayana. Being seated in the heart of all living beings, You are the supreme director of everyone's sensual activities. Therefore, you're called Hrishikesha. My dear Supreme Lord Krishna, because you've given me this body of a demigod, I will have to go to some heavenly planet. So I'm taking this opportunity to beg for your mercy. I pray that I may have the benediction of never forgetting your lotus feet, no matter to which form of life or planet I may be transferred. You're all-pervading everywhere, present as cause and effect. You are the cause of all causes, and your power is unlimited. You are the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead and supreme Brahman. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. My dear Lord, your body is full of transcendental bliss and knowledge, and you are eternal. You are the master of all mystic powers, therefore you're known as Yogeshvara. Kindly accept me as an insignificant particle of dust at your lotus feet. Before entering the heavenly planets, King Nriga circumambulated the Lord, touched his helmet to the Lord's lotus feet, and bowed before him. Seeing the airplane from the heavenly planets present before him, he was given permission by the Lord to board it. After the departure of King Nriga, Lord Krishna expressed his appreciation for the king's devotion to the Brahmins, as well as his charitable disposition and his performance of Vedic rituals. Therefore, it is recommended that if one cannot directly become a devotee of the Lord, one should follow the Vedic principles of life. In other words, be charitable, be truthful, be pious, be, honest, faithful. This will enable him one day to see the Lord by being promoted either directly to the spiritual kingdom or indirectly to the heavenly kingdom, where he has hope of being transferred to the spiritual planets. At this time, Lord Krishna was present among his relatives who were members of the Kshatriya class. To teach them through the exemplary character of King Nriga, he said, even though a Kshatriya king may be as powerful as fire, it is not possible for him to usurp the property of a Brahmana and utilize it for his own purpose. If this is so, how can ordinary kings, who falsely think themselves the most powerful beings within the material world, usurp a Brahman's property? I do not think that taking poison is as dangerous as taking a Brahman's property. For ordinary poison there is treatment, one can be relieved from its effects. But if one drinks the poison of taking a Brahman's property, there is no remedy for the mistake. The perfect example is King Nriga. He was very powerful and very pious, but due to the small mistake of unknowingly usurping a Brahman's cow, he was condemned to the abominable life of a lizard. Ordinary poison affects only those who drink it, and ordinary fire can be extinguished simply by pouring water on it. But the Adani fire, ignited by the spiritual potency of a Brahman who is dissatisfied, can burn to ashes the whole family of a person who provokes such a Brahman. Formerly, the Brahmins used to ignite the fire of sacrifice not with matches or any external fire, but with their powerful mantras called Adani. If someone even touches a Brahmin's property, his family is ruined for 3 generations. However, if a Brahmin's property is forcibly taken away, the taker's family for 10 generations before him and 10 generations after will be subject to ruination. On the other hand, if someone becomes a pure Vaishnava or devotee of the Lord, 10 generations of their family before their birth and 10 generations after will be liberated. Lord Krishna continued, if some foolish king who is puffed up by his wealth, prestige, and power wants to usurp a Brahmin's property, he should be understood to be clearing his path to hell. He does not know how much he has to suffer for such an unwise act. If someone takes away the property of a very liberal Brahmin who is encumbered by a large dependent family, then such a usurper is put into the hell known as Kumbhipaka. Not only is he put into this hell, but his family members also have to accept such a miserable condition of life. A person who takes away a Brahmin's property, whether it was originally given by him or by someone else, is condemned to live for at least 60,000 years as a miserable insect in stool. Therefore, I instruct you, all my boys and relatives present here, do not, even by mistake, take the possession of a Brahmana, and therefore pollute your whole family. If someone even wishes to possess such property, let alone attempts to take it away by force, the duration of their life will be reduced. He will be defeated by his enemies, and after being bereft of his royal position, when he gives up his body, he will become a serpent, giving trouble to all other living entities. My dear boys and relatives, I therefore advise you that even if a Brahmin becomes angry with you and calls you by ill names or curses you, you still should not retaliate. On the contrary, you should smile, tolerate them, and offer your respects to the Brahmin. Know very well that even I myself offer my obeisances to the Brahmanas, and with great respect, 3 times daily. You should therefore follow my example and instruction. I shall not forgive anyone who does not follow them, and I shall punish them. You should learn from the example of King Nriga that even if someone unknowingly usurps the property of a Brahmin, they are put into a miserable condition of life. So in other words, like, if you're not into the whole bhakti thing, and you're not really aligned with the Supreme Person, and you're still trying to play the material game, then you're interested in like keeping tally of your karma. And what
Say that again?
if you're not into the whole bhakti thing, you're not about dedicating yourself to Krishna, even if it takes however many lifetimes, I'm your servant. You're still about staying in the material world and enjoying one way or another. Then what's most important for you is to have good karma and not have bad karma. And even for such a person, the lesson is here in the Bhagavatam that they shouldn't mess with those who are spiritually serious and advanced, because even interfering with the material situation of such a person can be very bad for you materially, as much as giving to them is very good for you materially. But for somebody who's a devotee, it really just means treating other devotees with respect, and not being interested in just like staying in the world and profiting. That's not so much relevant for an aspiring devotee. It's like, no, not about that. But still, we see how personal Krishna is with those who are trying to come closer to him. He treats them very lovingly, and he's very protective of them.
This reminded me, it's like when you said it, I went back to my Catholic school training, and but I love the comparisons. I love finding things in Bible and other scripture that kind of refers back. And so I remember there was a story in the temple, and people were making a big deal about offering wealth. And so Jesus was observing this, and it says like he was watching individuals putting large amounts of money into the temple treasury and making a big deal and pomp and circumstance and show about it. And then he talks about the sacrificial offering of a poor widow. And that is really true generosity. So I think it's interesting to see these themes of like, yeah, if you have a lot and you give it, but you make a big deal of it, like,
Yeah,
you know, somebody who has nothing and gives what little they have in the eyes of God, divine Krishna, that's true, you know, giving and true sacrifice. So.
yeah, because the nature of the social order is that Brahmins don't have much materially. Prabhupada talked about it earlier, that somebody who voluntarily lives a simple life, kind of just living from whatever comes to whatever, like as a beggar, you know, like they just give spiritually, they teach and study, and like if someone gives me a donation of food, I eat. If not, I guess I don't eat today. That person can look really insignificant from the point of view of somebody who's one rung lower in the social order, which is a kshatriya, somebody who's actually like powerful physically, powerful intellectually, well educated, but also incredibly opulent. You know, they could look at this person, it's like, what is this? This is insignificant. But the Brahmin sacrifice is more appreciated. Yeah, the kshatriya is like, yeah, they're trying to serve by being a great ruler, but the Brahmin is giving their entire heart, ideally. Yeah, definitely there in the Bible with Jesus's approach to like the Pharisees, the moneylenders. He was not at all impressed with the pomposity of external show, you know.
Or like giving from your like excess,
Right.
whereas a brahmana or somebody that's really poor is like giving everything they have. Like they're giving, you know, from what little they have, they're giving all of that, and that's kind of, I think that's good.
Yeah. Chapter 4 Bhagavad Gita talks about different kinds of offerings. The offering of dravya yagya, meaning some substance like money or whatever. Jnana yagya, the offering of knowledge, the sacrifice of like trying to study spiritual knowledge or whatever. But it says there all kinds of yagyas are dependent on your nature, right? Like if you're a very intellectual person, you may perform the Jnana yagya by studying. That's like I'm choosing to like give over my intelligence to the Supreme, right? Krishna says by studying Bhagavad Gita, you're worshiping me with your intelligence. Somebody who's very externally oriented can use their hands to serve, right? But he says the whole point is to be purified by giving. That's the whole point. Because the whole point is to come to give your entire self, which is your capacity. To give your entire self. That's your only source of joy, is to give your entire self to Krishna. Anything short of that is not really it. Everything else is just training for that. Right? That's the whole point, is to come to that. Anything that helps you get closer to that is good. Even if it's just temporary, it's good. That's religion. That's life. That's humanity. That's our whole experience, is like coming to give our entire self to God and training how to do that. So this whole thing of like, yeah, I mean, Jesus said, easier for somebody, a wealthy person, easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a wealthy person to enter the kingdom of heaven. Doesn't mean that nobody who's wealthy actually gets liberated. It means that it's very difficult for somebody who's attached to material things to have any real devotion. You know, if they actually identify as a wealthy person, that I am these possessions, forget about it. They're already in the world. They're stuck there. They want to be there. Why would Krishna give them something they don't want? They want to be there, you can stay there for now. As soon as you're ready to let go of that, doesn't mean you have to be a beggar and poverty stricken anymore. It means you're no longer attached to it. Then you're not a wealthy person. You're just another beggar of God. And then you're qualified to go. That's the same message that Krishna is giving here. Don't look down on these Brahmins just because they're simple. They're actually greater than all of you kings. Because his sons are all princes. They're all going to be like kings. So he has to teach them. Thus, Lord Krishna, who is always engaged in purifying the conditioned living entities, gave instruction not only to his family members and the inhabitants of Dwarka, but to all the members of human society. After this, the Lord entered his palace. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 64th chapter of Krishna, the story of King Nriga. Haribol! We won't read the next chapter today, but it's a cool one, so I'll give you the title. Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. We're going back to Vrindavan. Oh, yeah. Well, Krishna's not going back, but Balaram is. Which is the next best thing.
Tom, can I ask you a question?
Now's the time. Go ahead.
So is there any ramification for the Brahmanas who would not forgive, that they became sort of attached to, this is my cow, not your cow?
Not in this pastime, but the dharma of a Brahmin is supposed to be tolerant and forgiving. And they're supposed to be equipoised because that's all mode of goodness stuff, and the Brahmin is a mode of goodness life. So in abstraction, I will say it's not particularly like ideal of them to function that way. There should have been like, okay,
but the point of this is really not that if he had been forgiven for this, he was still had this pride in his piousness.
Yeah. It had to play out this way so he would get a reaction, so we'd learn from it. That's why it had to play out this way.
Okay, thank you.
And we also find, as we've seen many times in the Krishna book, like look at the whole thing with baby Damodar. He knocks down the Arjuna trees, and these demigods come out, and they were cursed by Narada Muni. You know, or there's so many times when the curse of a devotee or a curse of a Brahmin puts you in some situation temporarily, but it actually ends up being for your benefit. So he broke his offering, he broke his vow to give to the Brahmins, but somehow it's not a bad thing because Krishna picks him up. You know, that's way better than anything he was going to get on the karmic level. So from that point of view, it's actually a tremendous blessing. We don't really get into that because it's not like with Narada Muni, like we actually know that he was like, okay, wait a minute. Nalakuva and Manigriva are super intoxicated with wealth. They're just sitting here naked, just partying like frat boys. What a waste. Let him see Krishna. You be trees till you see Krishna. They don't get into that. We don't hear about it from these Brahmins. We don't know what their story is. What were they thinking? Was it just a lapse of reason? Did they flip out unnecessarily over this cow? Is it just a lead needed to happen this way? Did they have a reaction? We don't know. But we can see the result is we all learned something. And King Nriga got to see Krishna face to face. But yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, you shouldn't. If you're going to be function like a Brahmin, you should be unattached. If it comes, it comes. If charity doesn't come, it doesn't come. You're not owed anything. Thank you. It's described that the great wealth of the Brahmins is their satisfaction. A satisfied mind is the wealth of a Brahmin. You can think of when you're not satisfied, how immediately your experience of life degrades. You feel entitled. Why didn't you give me that? All of a sudden, you're not happy anymore. Doesn't matter what you have in your hand. If you're not satisfied, you're not happy anymore. You could be king of the world. Hiranyakashipu wasn't happy. He was the least happy person because he was steeped in wanting more. He was desperately wanting more.
It's like entitlement's the opposite of gratitude.
Yeah. Therefore, it's the opposite of happiness. The Brahmin is satisfied. Whatever you want, feed me. I don't want. I'm yours, Krishna. No problem. You know. So like, yeah, it was a bit of a thing where they, he should have been satisfied, but anyway. More reflections. I won't be satisfied unless there's at least 2 more. Then I'll have to curse you. Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm not a Brahmin. I can't do that. I don't have any potency. Pamela.
So I thought it was pretty intense statement where he said a person who takes away a Brahmana's property, whether it's originally given, will live for 60,000 years as a miserable insect in stool. I mean, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's about as intense as it gets.
Right.
It's, again, from the perspective of somebody who's trying to like game the system. If you're trying to like stay in the material world and win, whatever you do, don't mess with spiritually inclined people. Not good. If you don't do anything else, just don't go to your local church, mosque, synagogue and steal from them. Don't steal from sincere practitioners don't like betray the sincere devotees. It's not a good call. It's really bad for you if you want to be happy even materially. Yeah. But once again, as I always do when it comes to questions of karma, Krishna's devotees in general, we don't actually worry about the intricacies of karma, because it's not really about that for us. We're not lawyers. We don't have to worry about what's good or bad karma in what way and how to counteract it with this thing. Or, in traditional religious cultures, including our own, like Vedic tradition, those who are very interested in staying in the world and being safe and in a advantageous position can be hyper fixated on purity. You see that with like Smarta Brahmins in our tradition, or like Orthodox Jews, or different kinds of things where it's like, be good, avoid impurity, don't touch unclean things, don't look at unclean things, dress a certain way, operate a certain way, whatever you don't do this on a Wednesday or at night, and all these different things, just to stay as the total line. Don't get into like Maya. And that's a good starting point for life. Like, don't make mistakes, be a good person, right? But devotees, they don't have to fixate on that, because their point is not to stay here. We're not trying to collect good karma. We're not as afraid of bad karma. We're trying to surrender our hearts to Krishna. And as you do that, you naturally become pious anyway. Like, devotees naturally have no inclination to do selfish things. Either like vicious things or pious things for their own benefit. They'll just do whatever pleases Krishna, which means being a good person anyway, but as a service. So being moral is already contained within that. But as a moral instruction, for those who are still stuck on that platform of like, the world is meant for their enjoyment, there are such instructions as like, yeah, whatever you do, don't mess with spiritual people. Don't do that. Really bad. Bad mojo. Don't. But for devotees, like, I wouldn't worry too much about statements about karma. It's not what we're here for. We're not counting the currencies of karma, Wow, it's 8:02. How did we do it? We got there somehow. Any last reflections? Okay. Well, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Krishna Book Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Pure Devotional Service ki jai. Jai Vancha Kalpatrupyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Gauranga. Yeah, the homework is these 2 chapters, chapters 63 and 64, and reflections from them. And we read about liberation of King Nriga and his story of karma. And we heard about Krishna's fight with Lord Shiva and the Banasura, and the Shiva Jwar and the Narayana Jwar. And you can read ahead. We have some really cool stuff with Balaram coming up. And we'll go back to reading, I think, 3 chapters next week. These were kind of long chapters. Thank you, everyone.
And Kartik starts this. Oh, wow.
Yeah, Sunday?
Sunday.
Kartik. The Kartik month starts on Sunday, the holy month of Kartik. If you want to take up any Sunday, right? If you want to take up any special extra service, you want to chant a little more, read a little more, give up something that's holding you back, do some more hanging out with devotees, more Tuesday Shastra. You can make vows informally, And we're also going to be chanting the Damodar Ashtakam regularly. Stay
And
tuned.
We'll do it all together after.
Yeah.
Too.
We'll chant after the Tuesday night for the whole month of Kartik. We'll chant the Damodar Ashtakam and offer lamps. Traditionally, very nice offering, a simple offering of lamp, ghee wicks or little tea lights. So see you soon for that. Jai. Thank you, YouTube contingent, WhatsApp contingent, Hare Krishna. Om Tat Sat.
This is in